Okay, I see our attendees list is maybe just growing a little slowly, so I think we can go ahead and get started with the agenda and some introductions here. So I'll get started since I'm already speaking. My name is Holly Brennan. I am a graduate recruitment counselor here for the Division of Masters in Professional Programs at Brown University. And David and Carrie, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yes, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Lindstrom. I'm a professor in sociology and in population studies. My expertise is in demography and statistics and survey research methods. I'm the director of the program.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Carrie Spearin. I am the Associate Program Director of the program in Social Data Analytics. And I do a lot of advising of our students, and I also teach courses in market research and focus groups and program evaluation.
Awesome. Thank you both. So as far as what we're going to be covering today in our session, David and Carrie are going to show some really great highlights and program and curriculum highlights of the Masters of Science in Social Data Analytics program. We do have a current student here with us. Her name is Camila. So we are going to spotlight her experience and why she chose Brown. I'll take over about halfway through to talk about some master specific support and resources and highlighting our Center for Master Students Excellence team, as well as covering what a complete and strong application will look like for the program. And as always, we will be saving time at the end for a Q&A, but depending on the nature of your question, it might be answered just throughout. So if not, live in the moment, we will save time at the end for a Q&A. So just want to kindly remind everyone that you will not have the opportunity to engage in the chat or to use camera or video because this is a webinar. So you'll be using your Q&A function at the bottom of the screen to submit any questions that you have. We will be putting any quick links or email addresses in the chat for you to quickly view and have your own for your own reference. And finally, yes, as a attendee of this session, you will be receiving an application fee waiver that is applicable up to one application rather, and it is not applicable for our SOFIS applications. So if for some reason you change your mind, don't want to apply for the SCA program, unfortunately that fee waiver will not cover a SOFIS application. So, but enough about that. We can go ahead and get started with talking about our program here.
Thank you, Holly. So let's move to the first slide. Okay, so just a real brief overview of the program. It's a 2-semester program. We start in the fall semester, continuing to the spring semester. It's 4 courses in the fall, 4 courses in the spring. There is no thesis requirement. It's a STEM designated program. And the degree type is a Master's of Science degree. The program draws from curriculum that was initially designed for our doctoral program and for our advanced undergraduate program. And this is really the unique feature of our particular program. We know there are many data analytics programs in existence now. We've been around for around 10 years. And the uniqueness of our program is that it's fully integrated within the existing doctoral program in sociology and in the advanced undergraduate program in research methods. And that means that students in this program are in courses with primarily doctoral students and some advanced undergraduates. Our curriculum continues to expand. We recently, actually this year, moved the program from the Department of Sociology to the Population Studies and Training Center. And the implications of that is that our students are now not only fully integrated within our PhD program in sociology, but more importantly, they're integrated within our PhD or within our doctoral training program in demography. And that opens up a whole range, larger range of training opportunities and advanced research methods. Our curriculum covers advanced statistical methods, demographic techniques, methods for spatial analysis, and qualitative research methods. In any given year, there's somewhere between 20 and 25 courses that students can choose from. And because these courses were designed primarily initially for our doctoral students, they're focused very much on applications, real world applications. Our objective is to train students in how to collect data, various forms and of data, how to manage, manipulate, and store data, um, how to analyze that data, and then how to present results to a public. And so we're really focused on a wide range training students and working with a wide range of data types and how to make sense out of data, how to find the story behind the data, and how to convey results in a compelling format to publics. Okay, it's a relatively small program. Um, Most of our cohorts are in the range of 20 to 25 students. Um, I'd say 80 to 90% of our courses are taught by tenure track faculty. We are expanding again. I mentioned this earlier, our curriculum and training opportunities. So we've added new courses this spring. We have someone teaching a course in mixed methods for evaluation research. And this is a person who's engaged in the state of Massachusetts and heading up their evaluation program for in the Department of Education. So we are increasingly incorporating real world practitioners, but still the core of our faculty are regular tenure track faculty. Most of the courses are small. Maybe they have anywhere from 5 to 6 to 25 to 30 students. In addition to courses offered in sociology, students can take courses in other programs as well. But we maintain a very strong program within the Department of Sociology and now within the Population Studies and Training Center. So students really don't have to go beyond those programs to get the training they need. In addition to the traditional semester-based courses, students can also engage in research practicums, working with faculty on their research projects, and it's a way for students to get hands-on research experience. And now that we're part of the PSTC, students also have access to a range of many kinds of training sessions that can be anywhere from a morning to a day to 2 weeks. These are non-credit courses that expose students to a range of particular software applications or specialized methods for analyzing data, such as experimental methods, or we have a 2-week intensive course in spatial analysis. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. Okay, this just summarizes what I was saying earlier, which is the goals of the program, really to provide students with this sophisticated methodological toolkit that provides them with the skills to work with a whole range of different kinds of data types. It's not just a statistics program. It's not a data science program. It's data analytics focused on qualitative types of data, demographic and survey data, and spatial data. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so the core of the program are 2 required advanced multivariate statistics courses. Multivariate Statistical Methods 1, which is focused on the linear regression model, and Methods 2 in the second semester, which is focused on what we call limited dependent variables or categorical data. One of the things is that these courses were originally designed for our PhD students, and our PhD students come to the program with a variety of levels of or backgrounds in statistics. And why that's important is that as long as you've had a course, an undergraduate course in introductory statistics, and you did well in that course, you're sufficiently prepared to be successful in this program. So these courses are designed to be accessible to students with a wide range of backgrounds prior backgrounds in statistics. and a minimum of introductory statistics. So if you've done that, you're eligible for the program and you'll be successful in the program itself. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. Okay, so just examples of the kind of course offerings available to our students is we, in any given semester or year, have a variety of courses and qualitative research methods available to them. And I'll talk about this a little more in the next slide, but we also have a very strong program in spatial analysis. It's a particular strength at Brown University. And then we offer courses related to content analysis, web scraping, and then more sophisticated advanced courses in statistics related to causal analysis, event history analysis, panel data, hierarchical data, and then core courses in demography. As I mentioned, again, some of our students go outside of the department for one course per year, but generally it's not really necessary. But examples of courses that students take outside of the course, historically, we've had a lot of students interested in R, and we are now offering for the first time this spring semester a course in R for data analysis. We have the survey research course in market research, course in focus groups, etc. So wide range of different kinds of courses, all. And this is important. Again, this is what distinguishes our program from other programs, is that all of our courses are focused on data and how to work with data, how to analyze data, how to make sense out of data. So we're packing into 2 semesters the kind of methodological and statistical training that we provide to doctoral students in 3 years. So it's very much methods intensive. So let's move on to the next slide. Now, I mentioned this briefly, is that we do offer a directed research practicum. It's optional. It's 4 credit, and it's students are engaged in faculty-directed research. Some students have pursued opportunities off campus, working in the public sector or in the private sector. Students can also do internships without and work with faculty on research projects without actually signing up for their directed research practicum. The directed research practicum, turns out, is a good opportunity for students who do not have prior research experience to get hands-on experience that helps them in their pursuit for it in the labor market in terms of demonstrating research experience with data outside of the classroom. And that's what it's designed for. Most of the students actually don't do this. What we find is that for most students, rather than enrolling in a practicum, it's better for them to take that additional course, to take 8 full courses. And that's where they get the biggest impact from their training, is getting as much of that course room-based training as they can get within the 2 semesters. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Now, we do offer these optional tracks, and the 3 tracks are qualitative analysis, spatial analysis, and demographic analysis. And the idea behind these tracks is that they provide students an opportunity to specialize in a particular set of research methods and signal that specialization on their transcripts. So, for instance, students who are really interested in spatial analysis and want to walk away from this program, identify themselves as someone with a high degree of specialization and expertise in spatial analysis, then the tracks offer students that opportunity. Most of the students, again, choose for more broad-based training, taking courses in qualitative methods, taking courses in spatial analysis, and taking courses in demographic analysis. But these tracks are available. And again, for some students, it's a good way for them to signal a particular type of strength. So we do have students, for instance, that are really interested in qualitative research methods. And so the qualitative analysis track, again, provides them an opportunity not only to specialize in qualitative methods, but again, to signal that specialization on their transcripts. Um, Regardless of the track that students may choose, everyone's required to take our 2-semester statistics sequence. And then beyond that, students are free to choose what they want. Most of the tracks require, I think if I remember correctly, about 3 courses. Um, so, okay, so let's move on to the next slide. And Carrie, do you want to pick up right here?
Yes, well, certainly. So in addition to all of your coursework that's happening, we have a lot going on for our students, just in terms of embedding them into the culture at Brown, as well as professional development and working with different departments within the School of Professional Studies. So there's always something going on with our students. And that starts with where our program is housed. So the program in social data analytics is housed within the Population Studies and Training Center at Brown. So this building has lots of people. It's an interdisciplinary center with people working in the fields of economics, anthropology, public health, sociology, really coming together. There's postdocs who are working there, there's graduate students, and there are all of you, as well as our faculty. So students have full access to this building. There are work areas where you can collaborate together. There are smaller study spaces and quiet little nooks where you can study. There are talks that go on every Thursday and some Fridays. You have access to all of the PSTC training workshops, whether those are technical, skill-based analytical workshops or professional development workshops, and to all of the talks that are offered, not just in the Population Studies and Training Center, but also offered by the spatial structures in the social sciences, which is often called S4 at Brown, IBIS, which is the Institute for Brown, Institute at Brown for Environment and Society, as well as the Annenberg Institute that focuses on education, equality, and poverty policy, rather. So there's lots going on for our students, and it is a really great gathering of the mind space. So we encourage all our students to be present, to be engaged, and really to build that community. Next slide. As I said before, we do have partnerships with all different affiliations on campus, and we really, really encourage our students to seek out all the intellectual life that's happening beyond the Population Studies and Training Center. As I said, IBIS, which is focused on the environment. Annenberg is focused on education. The Swearer Center is focused on public service. And there are many opportunities that our graduate students have engaged with the Swearer Center, working with not-for-profit agencies in the area and other groups. So there's lots going on beyond the walls of the PSTC that we really encourage students to participate in. Next slide. Beyond that, we also are really focused on the idea of providing you with professional development opportunities that can help you move to the future that you're wanting, right? So this program in social data analytics, you're coming to this because you need these skills. You want to build these particular skills. You want to kind of diversify or strengthen your analytical toolkit so that you can move into the career of your choice. And so we work with our alumni. And every November, we have them come in to talk to our current students to provide not just networking opportunities, but also to hear from our students and find out, or our former students, and find out the ways in which our classes, their experiences have really helped them move as they move forward into careers. So our students go into a wide range of fields, some in research or data science or business analytics. We have students who move into the fields of marketing. We have a smaller subset who go off into doctoral studies. But we have alumni working in many fields. And now that our program, yes, is small, with intention that it's been small, but our numbers have been growing. Our alumni network has been growing because we've had this program for quite some time now. So we always have people that we can connect you with. And many of our students are really interested in talking to current students. We also showcase our alumni in our annual social data analytics newsletter. So if you haven't had a moment to check out our newsletter, we can have Casey drop it maybe in the chat, which is our newsletter from last year. We also have them on our website as well, so you can look at what our former students are doing, what are the more cutting edge things that our faculty are working on in the courses that they are developing. And we're currently working on our newest edition of the newsletter, so we're really excited about that as well. Next slide. Oh, and then we'll move to Camila.
Thank you, Gary. Well, hi everyone. My name is Camila, and I'm currently a student in the Social Data Analytics Master's program here at Brown. First, I chose Brown because the program gives you a lot of flexibility to design your own academic path and take courses that truly fit your interests. I really like that it brings together different perspectives on data, not just like the technical side, but also how data can be applied to real world social challenges. For me, I'm especially interested in how data can inform and improve public policy. So right now I'm taking 4 courses. The one that David was talking, the multivariate statistical methods, one of geographic information systems, another one of network social analysis, and the causal analysis that is my favorite. Each course helps me understand how social issues from different analytical perspectives. Another thing I really value is that the cohort is really small, which makes it easy to build close relationships with professors and get personalized guidance throughout the program. Overall, it has been a great experience. The program is very flexible. The professors are very supportive, and you really get to explore the areas that you are most passionate about.
Yeah, thank you, Camila, for sharing a little bit of your insight and journey as becoming a master's student here at Brown. I know that you really just started a little over a month ago, so I'd love to kind of know what classes you're currently taking now, if you've engaged in any sort of social activities. How's it going so far?
Yeah, so the 4 courses I'm taking right now are the multivariate statistical methods that we all have to take it, the geographic information systems, the network social analysis, and the causal analysis. And I've been involved in a lot of different activities throughout, not only in the PSTC, but also in the university as a whole.
Awesome, great. Can you share just a little bit about what it was like to kind of move to Providence and become a master's student?
Yeah, well, I'm from Colombia, so it's the first time I'm living out of my country, and Providence is really a nice place to live. It's really calm. It's very walkable, so you can walk to the university very easily. And it's a really great place when you can just focus on your interest and on studying. You don't have to deal with much more stressful things.
Yeah, thank you so much for that insight. So I think that we can maybe move on to the next slide, but I welcome anybody to be asking any questions for Camila, for David, and Carrie and the Q&A. I know it's a small group, so don't be shy. This session is being recorded, and you'll get a copy of the link in the recording. But we do still have some time here, and we have a gracious current student who's allotted to take time away from her classes and studies to kind of share about her perspective. So. We can move on, but please welcome any other kind of questions going forward. Thank you, Camila. Oh, I do see one just in the chat now. Maybe less for Camila than just some insight. Could you provide examples or referrals of non-Brown funding that past students have secured? I can speak a little bit about this, but typically, most of our master's students are self-funded. What that means is that you are either taking out loans or you're finding outside sources of funding. So either in terms of scholarships, in terms of loans. We understand, especially too, that Grad Plus loans as of next year, which really only affects our domestic students. We are still getting updated guidance from our Director of Graduate Financial Aid about best routes now that Grad Plus loans are not accessible anymore. But as far as international students are concerned, typically they have either scholarships or again private loans. I will say that we host a lot of budgeting sessions, and in general, we'll continue this conversation up until really you're enrolling. And even then, we have webinars about budgeting, about financial wellness. So that conversation really carries through as you're a student here. But I would recommend signing up for that session. I can't copy the link right now because I'm sharing my screen, but it is available on our events portal. It's called Budgeting in Grad School. And again, that our Director of Graduate Financial Aid will be in attendance and sharing advice, especially within the context of funding changing lately. But as far as, opportunities to look at outside scholarships, there's definitely an abundance of resources on various websites. They just take a little bit of research, but as far as what is available through the program or through Brown, there's really not any master's specific scholarships for this program or from Brown itself. And yep, we're going to be start talking about the application just now, but I'm going to pause and let that kind of answer with our next slide. So talking about a little bit more about kind of master specific support and resources. So Carrie and David just really outlined perfectly the amount of support and especially really directly within your program. So it's very intimate, very niche, and also a lot of hands-on kind of assistance and guidance. So with that being said, that is kind of unlike a lot of master's programs here as we are growing. Your cohort this is probably going to be one of the smallest cohorts of across all the master's programs that we have. So you really get to know your professors, your advisors, your colleagues, and your classmates very, very well based on the size of this program. So you might not, or, God forbid, you don't have any sort of emergency or need to take a leave of absence, but we do have a dedicated team, a student affairs team called the Center for Master's Student Excellence, which is a combination of student affairs and also professional development services that we offer solely for our master's students here. So traditionally, our master's population has been kind of washed in with doctoral students, but over the last several years, we've really realized that master's students need more specific and more catered resources, since some of them are, mostly self-funded. They might have families. You're looking at a really different kind of life and demographic than when you were an undergraduate student or if you were to become a doctoral student. So just want to familiarize yourself with this lovely group of individuals because they can really answer anything from, again, crisis support, academic support, looking at identifying your professional development needs, or looking at career services, looking at also building your resume, building, if you've never done that before, preparing for mock interviews, especially if you're just entering into the job force and don't have experience with that. Or if you're like Camila and you've come from out of the country, getting that kind of support and advice to navigate the job market within America if you've also not familiar with that kind of cadence. So as far as like when you are a student here and even post-graduation, our career services and professional development team are still a resource for you up to 3 years post-graduation. So as an alumni, as a current student, that networking and those connections carry on with you, not only with your degree, but also with the kind of support that you can access post-graduation. And here is just a really kind of simple breakdown of what the core functions of this team are. So as mentioned previously, really can be starting from A to Z about looking at your career options, identifying employment opportunities, especially with a program such as SCA that is relatively, fast-paced and only a year. We recommend trying to get started on day one, talking about, identifying your options, looking at your goals when it comes to professional development or your career. And so that team can cater to any sort of help that you need at this point. They also offer individual and group sessions and opportunities to network and connect with other of your students cross-departmentally as well. So beyond that, our student affairs team can also connect you to other members and partners on campus. So student accessibility services, if you need an accommodation for learning or for any other support. If you're an international student, we can connect you with the Office of International Students and Scholars, as well as health services, counseling and psychological services. So I always like to say that this team, and particularly Janae, who's our Assistant Dean of Student Affairs, her background is in social work, so she is incredibly adept and sensitive with student issues, especially personal and sensitive ones. But if you have any confusion at all about where to go, because especially we understand that graduate students are a little bit more independent, they are a little bit more self-sufficient, they might not want to ask for help or not know who to go to. This team is a great set of people that you can go to first, and they will be able to guide you beyond that. So beyond the umbrella of support that you have within your program, within your department, this is an added resource that is specifically for master's students. So these teams host a lot of also programming events, not only just for networking and for skill building and workshopping, but also for really just social, emotional learning and bonding. So Student Affairs partners with a few other of our identity centers and offices across campus to provide programming for graduate students that fits their needs and also fits kind of their desires for bonding and for community. So you're looking at maybe graduate student events that don't really mirror an undergraduate model is a little bit more mature. Maybe you're going out to dinner or you're going out to take a hike locally around Providence. There's an abundance of either student groups, graduate student groups rather, that meet for academic reasons and also just for purely fun and belonging reasons. So as Carrie and David mentioned, you really have kind of bombarded with social events. So even if you never wanted to leave campus, you would have an endless opportunity to meet people cross-departmentally, network across campus, and also have a little bit of fun here while you're a student because you're only here for a short period of time, and exploring your personhood and identity outside of class, we find is really going to make a huge impact on your success as a graduate student. And beyond that, I'm just going to pause to see if there's anything. Oh, I see Carrie had put in a link to the chat, so I'm going to send that to everybody. Thank you, Carrie. And now we'll be talking about our application requirements. So what does a completed application for the program look like? Typically, you're looking at a copy of all of your unofficial transcripts, your personal statement, copy of your CV or resume, 3 letters or recommendation, an English language proficiency exam in the form of the TOEFL or IELTS, depending on if you are required to submit that or not, as well as a copy of your official GRE scores. The next application deadline for fall 2026 entry is February 1st, so we have plenty of time to get your application in before the deadline, and typically our admissions notification is going to be early spring. That's typically early to mid-March, so that date kind of changes every year, but it is a fairly quick turnaround. And unofficial transcripts are only going to be needed upon application. So we get this question pretty often about when are unofficial needed. You will only need to submit those if you are admitted and decide to enroll. So that will kind of save you some time and also some money in compiling your application, as well as And I'll go to the next slide here.
Can I just add something real
Yeah,
quick?
please.
Just real quick on the first on the statement. You don't have to write a long statement. This is like a 2-pager, and your statement should just say, these are my career goals. This is where I want to be in 5 years. These are the experiences I've had that have led me to the point where I am right now, and why Brown is the right place for me in terms of arriving at my career goals. So it's basically something that's, in a sense, autobiographical about what you want to, where you want to go professionally, and why Brown is the right place for you in terms of achieving those career goals. The GRE, we're not looking for perfect GRE scores. Don't take the GRE 3 times and think that, you're going to continue to do better. I see that frequently, and when I see it, I don't see any clear pattern of GRE scores going up, when people take the exam multiple times. We're just using the GRE as just one of multiple points of information that we use to evaluate students in our applications. We're not looking for perfect GRE scores. Mainly, we use the GRE to ensure that people can successfully complete the program. So we're more focused on really low GRE scores than high GRE scores. So it's really looking at a lower threshold. So I'm saying these things because I don't want students can get hung up and anxious about putting together an application and getting all their material together. Again, that personal statement should not be anything that holds you back. Just write 2 pages of autobiography and take the GRE exam. Don't take it multiple times, and don't worry about getting perfect scores.
Yeah, thank you, David, for that insight. And that is a really good segue into some more kind of continued requirements as part of the application. So based on your attendance to this session, your application fee is already waived, which means that once you start, if you haven't started already, or once you submit your application, you'll just not be prompted to submit the application fee. The only issue that you might run into is if you register for the session with a different email than you applied for, which is not a big deal. You can always just email me or masters_events@brown.edu, and we can get that fixed for you. But and especially now, we have plenty of time and runway before the application deadline. So as David mentioned, the application review process really is holistic here, and we get a question all the time about what does holistic really mean? It means that there's not going to be one single part of your application unless you have like a disastrously low GPA, or your TOEFL or minimum, or your TOEFL or IELTS score really is just far below the minimum. Those would really be the only 2 cases where one single metric is going to make you inadmissible. Largely, the application review process is holistic, where each part of your application is going to be weighed equally amongst others. So no application and no person is perfect. There have been cases where you have a perfect 4.0 GPA, but then your letters of recommendation are vague. They don't really show a clear relationship to, someone who built strong connections with their program, in their professional sphere. So there's definitely ways where having, the highest possible score or the highest possible GPA doesn't also help you become admissible. So, beyond that, I had mentioned already that official transcripts are only required for enrolling students, but for international students, you will need to be aware that one, our minimum scores are a little higher than the university minimum. So the university minimum for the TOEFL is 90, and I believe 6 for the IELTS, which is fairly, again, a low threshold. But especially if you're looking at a few different programs here, some programs do have varying minimum scores, and those are there really not as a barrier, but as an assurance that you will be successful in the program, and English language proficiency will not be a barrier for you. So with that being said, that's why that minimum is a little higher. And I will break that down in the next slide about, who's required and who isn't. It's really a kind of an automated process within the application. So you have our GRE school code here to send your official GRE scores, as well as the TOEFL and IELTS school code. It is the same. But basically in the application, if you haven't started already, you're basically answering these 3 questions. What is your first language? or your native language? Did you complete a degree where English, and did you complete a degree where English is the sole language of instruction? If English is your first language, no matter where you got your degree from, you're automatically exempt. You meet our English language proficiency requirements, but and we get this a lot because we do have a growing international community here, and typically we have a high interest from international folks in general. But if English is not your first language and you did not complete a degree where English is the sole language of instruction, so you went to Italy, you speak Italian, but it was not, it was taught in both Italian and English, you actually would be required to submit the TOEFL and the IELTS because that does not meet our threshold requirement. This is an automatic process. Again, as long as you are answering accurately and clearly within the application, it should just waive it if you don't need it or require it if you do. The last thing that I did not put on the slide, though, is that the TOEFL and IELTS scores do need to be at least 2 years old. So anything older than that, we're asking you to retake the test because, frankly, English language proficiency and any sort of language proficiency is that you get better by practicing it. So a 2-year-old exam probably means that you've learned a little bit more and that you've also become more advanced with your English language proficiency. So an updated score is always really great to see, especially if maybe you had lower scores in the past, and that may have affected like your admissibility. We had mentioned, I think, earlier on in the slide, just these 3 main prerequisite courses that is going to help you become admissible to the program. Again, as David had mentioned, there's a really very forgiving kind of range of backgrounds that you don't need to have this specific kind of background in statistics or, research methods, but these 3 courses will help you despite your background, be successful and ready to engage in graduate level work. Anything that you want to add here, David or Carrie?
Yeah, yeah, just real quick. The key thing is that introductory statistics course, and then number 2, advanced statistics course or college calculus. An example would be like a course in econometrics or a course in business statistics or something other than introductory statistics. What we're trying to avoid is we don't want students applying to the program who have a math phobia and don't like statistics or anything, because you've got to get through the 2-semester sequence in advanced statistics, which again, if you have introductory statistics, you'll be fine in. But statistical methods is a core part of this program. So if you hate statistics, this isn't the program for you.
Yes, thank you, David. Clear is kind, and I think it's really helpful to have these sessions to kind of show exactly what kind of students that we're looking for and wanting to make sure that you are also understand that this program meets your needs and what you're looking for in a graduate program.
And Holly, I just wanted to add as well,
Please.
just to reiterate the idea of it is holistic, and we do look at all parts of the application. And many of our students come from many different undergraduate backgrounds. And so that's why we're looking at your application. So we have students, this is not a program where we see a majority of our students having a sociology background. It's really widespread. So just because we listed sociology here as your statistics class, just to reiterate what David said, econometrics, something in public health, poli-sci, all over the place we have our students. So that's why we are looking at this and looking at all parts of your application have kind of equal importance, and they differ for each student. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I think that is, again, another really perfect segue to talk a little bit more in depth about the personal statement and letters recommendation. Dave and Carrie have already really shared a lot of great insight and advice, particularly about it not being perfect and also not writing a novel. So there's an opportunity. And again, this is a little bit smaller of a prompt than you might see with some of our other programs, but the layout is the same. You're explaining clearly your reasons for wanting to pursue graduate work in your field of study. You're tying together pieces of your resume, of your lived experience, of your journey, either in undergraduate, maybe you did have a pivot and decided to kind of change directions entirely. Your personal statement would be a great opportunity to highlight that, maybe not speak entirely about it. But as David mentioned, it really is the only piece of metric that's in your own words, that's in your own narrative, and it's an opportunity to really get to know you as a person. So this program does not offer interviews for admission. Your personal statement is really your opportunity to speak about yourself as a student, as a person, and how the program fits your needs and what you're looking for. Maybe there's research clusters or there's professors doing research that you're doing and you want to highlight that. That really is a great opportunity to put that in your personal statement as well. If you have already identified research that you want to do, or faculty within the program that you want to work with, that'd be a really great thing to highlight in your personal statement and really tie it all together. I'll say as well, letters of recommendation. We might have, I don't think we have any fifth year students in this session here today, but typically you will be required to have 3 letters of recommendation. Most of our students, I think, really do come straight from undergraduate. So majority, if not all of those references are going to be from an academia source. Although, of course, this program is also forgiving for mid to early career professionals who might have a little bit more professional experience and they might be a little further out from graduation, which is also okay. I think the recommendation overall is that at least one of those recommenders are going to be from an academic source, just to show, again, that you're ready and would be successful in a graduate level kind of program. Beyond that, we do recommend identifying these people as early as possible, really being your own self-advocate when it comes to deadlines and also making sure that they get the right email, that you have the right contact information for them. They'll be getting an email from our application system, so they'll be submitting it on your behalf. It really shouldn't land in your lap at all. But you'll be getting, automatic updates through emails when those are submitted and when your application is ready to be reviewed and so forth. So I'll say for our recruitment team here at the Division of Masters in Professional Programs, we are hosting an application workshop, which is the first of its kind that we're offering. It's about building your best master's application. So we'll be sharing a lot of kind of general advice about picking your recommenders, building your personal statement, what kind of, strong sentiments you want to be sharing in those. So I definitely recommend looking at that. That's going to be happening in a couple weeks, I believe. I don't have that link on me ready, but a great opportunity to kind of see what other people are asking and to get some more hands-on help with your application if you need it. Anything you want to add here, David or Carrie?
Feel free to reach out to either of us by email if you have any additional questions. We're always happy to communicate with students. Sometimes, people have Zoom calls with people as well. So we're available to answer any questions you might have about the program. But I will say that, get your application started early. It really does need to be in on time and it needs to be complete. So if your application's not complete and not on time, I'll never see it. So, so please plan in advance. But that's particularly important with respect to the GRE. GRE is only offered on certain dates. And so you need to get registered and early and in advance to make sure. And the other thing is that the score from the GRE has to get to us by the application deadline. So plan in advance. Don't wait till the last minute on these things. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. We always recommend just kind of getting it out of the way so it's not something you have to worry about anymore. But yes, with that being said, our application deadline is coming up on February 1st. We do offer a little bit of leeway with getting some extra materials. That's usually only about a week after the application deadline. So there is a soft internal deadline for any sort of missing materials, but largely your application does need to be complete by that time for it to be eligible to be reviewed. So I did just put our 3 emails in the chat here. I know that's a small group, so thank you all for sticking with us today. And if you have any questions now, we do have a few minutes. please feel free to enter them. But if I don't see anything in the next minute or so, we'll just close it up and you'll see our other contact information as well, should you need it. Want to also just thank Camila for her time joining us today. Thank you so much. So if we don't have any questions, we can just close it up. But thank you all for joining today, and we hope to see your completed application.
Thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.